Good evening and good morning in Europe, in South America, and whoever actually is watching the match around the world. My name is Erlen Orange, and with my colleague Anna-Maria Urbanova, we'll be hosting this match of the Inter-University Law Debate Tournament 2023. So I give the floor to my colleague, who is the host of this match.
Good day, everyone. As Michael said, my name is Anna-Maria Urbanova, and on behalf of Quarks Foundation, the organizer of the Hague Inter-University Law Debate Tournament 2023, it is a pleasure to welcome you to the first match of the quarterfinals of this edition. So welcoming the debate teams of University of Antioquia and Tilburg University. So hello to Colombia and hello to Netherlands. Wishing the two teams best of luck. The debate statement they have received in advance for today's match is as follows. States should be encouraged to actively subsidize national production of essential items up to 60% of market coverage, for instance, medicines, food production, technology. As you all know, the quarterfinals has a guarantor. So Professor Dr. Maria Fildes is it is the first time that we welcome her to present debate statements for the quarterfinals. Much gratitude to the professor and wishing best of luck to the two teams. That would be it from the organizing side. It is time for students to introduce themselves, starting with the debate team of University of Antioquia, Ms. Paula Andrea Gomez Acosta.
Thank you very much. Hi to our colleagues from Tilburg. My name is Paula Andrea. I'm from Colombia. I am at my last year of law studies at the University of Antioquia, and I'm really happy and proud to be here.
Welcome. From Tilburg University, Mr. Spiridon Cottos.
Good afternoon from Tilburg. I'm Spiridon, second year global law student, and glad to be here. Can't wait to debate.
Welcome. From Colombia, also joining us, Mr. Cristian Camilo Rico Zapata.
Good morning in Colombia and good afternoon in Tilburg in the Netherlands. And my name is Cristian Camilo. I'm a third year law student. And also I'm really excited first to get to this point of the competition and yeah, to be able to debate here today.
Welcome. And returning to Tilburg, Ms. Lulu Samborska.
Hi, good morning. My name is Lulu Samborska, and I'm a first year global law student. And I'm also incredibly excited to have come to this point. And yeah.
Right. Welcome. And again, thank you, everyone. Congratulations on reaching this round. In a short while, my colleague will share his screen for the allocation of the positions for the debates. And as per usual, there will be then 5 minutes to finalize your preparations. The team in favor will be starting. So best of luck.
So yes, I will share my screen, then you will see the wheel with the name of the universities. So already in YouTube they see the wheel, and you will see it as well on WebEx in a few seconds. So normally you should see my screen with the wheel with the two names of the two universities, I mean. The University of Antioquia and the Tilburg University. Each university has a chance to be either in favor or against the motion of today's match. So we'll click in the center and we'll know which position each team will defend during the match. The team having in favor will start the match. So this is Tilburg University will be defending the position against the motion, and as a consequence, this is the University of Antioquia will defend the position in favor and will start the match. So concretely, it means that the University of Antioquia will defend the position that states should be encouraged to actively subsidize national production of essential items up to 60% market coverage, for example, medicine, food production, and technology. On the other side, Tilburg University will defend the position that states should not be encouraged to actively subsidize national production of essential items up to 60% of market coverage, for example, medicine, food production, and technology. So now you will have your 5 minutes.
Indeed. And you can close your cameras and start to prepare. Thank you, everyone. Your final time for preparation is now over. We'll be starting the match with the team in favor. So, giving the floor to Colombia, the debate team of University of Antioquia, you now have 4 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you. Before I begin, may I confirm that I am audible and visible?
You are.
Thank you. Cordial greetings from Colombia to all of you who are listening to us, especially to the organizing team, the respected judges, and our colleagues at Tilburg University. Today, as a team, we will present a series of arguments based on international law instruments and a relevant case that clearly show that the state should be encouraged to actively subsidize national production of essential items up to 60% of market coverage. In the first place, I will present a general normative framework based on international hard law instruments. Then my teammate Paula will bring to the discussion a relevant case, and ultimately I will present our concluded remarks. First of all, I must begin with our first argument. It's fundamental to present you the importance of states subsidizing national production in terms of human rights. According to Article 12 of the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights of 1966, an integral part of the International Bill of Human Rights, individuals have the right to enjoyment of the highest attainable standard of health. In addition, this article indicates, for example, measures to be taken by states to ensure the full realization of this right. And we clearly see that the subsidies on essential goods, such as food, vaccines, medicines, or even housing, could be a clear way to ensure that all members of society have access to affordable healthcare. Speaking of food, the right to food and food security are closely linked to the right to health, and subsidies for essential food products can help to ensure that all members of society have access to adequate and nutritious food, and consequently to an optimal standard of health. Our context provides us with the perfect sample in Colombia, our country. Child malnutrition remains as one of the main causes of death of indigenous Wayuu children. According to a 2022 research by the University Alliance for the Human Right to Adequate Food, 34% increase in malnutrition is a consequence of the dramatic rise in food insecurity in Colombian households. Moreover, as stated by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United States, ensuring food security requires governance of food systems, investments in agriculture and rural areas, as well as empowering small producers. Likewise, the widely known United Nations Sustainable Development Goals call for action to address global challenges, such as the goals number 1 and 2, no poverty and no hunger. And once again, subsidies aim to support national production of essential goods, and items can contribute to these goals by encouraging economic growth, reducing poverty, and addressing food and health security. And with that being said, we affirm once again that measures such as subsidies for essential goods are undoubtedly a necessary measure to guarantee human and fundamental rights. Which brings us to our second argument, that state subsidies for essential goods and services are a key tool for governments in order to promote economic and social development. And development is enshrined in the United Nations Declaration on the Right of Development of 1986 as a universal and inalienable right. The right to development is achievable through subsidies for national production of essential items, since they have proven to be helpful to promote self-sufficiency and economic growth, to fulfill people's needs and other benefits to a country's development that will be developed later on. In that order of ideas, we conclude that states should indeed be encouraged to actively subsidize national production of essential items due to the broad legal framework in the field of human rights and a minimum standard basis that should be guaranteed by states. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are now passing the floor to Tilburg University debate team. You have 4 minutes for your opening statement. You are not audible yet.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So just in a second, I will start my speech. Dear panel, in my speech, I'm going to define what subsidies actually are and what we're talking about according to international agreements. Secondly, I'm going to start introducing our arguments. We're going to have 3 of those, and then Spiridon is going to continue on our argumentation. Firstly, let's define what subsidies are to truly know what this debate is about. So the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade in Article 1 states that subsidies are a financial contribution by any public body within the territory of a state or any government practice that involves a direct transfer of funds or liabilities. So this includes grants, loans, equity infusion, stuff like that for the production of a good. So what do subsidies do? They lower a product's cost for producers, making it more profitable and hence decreasing prices for consumers and increasing supply. The government essentially picks part of the bill without asking anything in return. But they also reduce market efficiency because of A, problematic incentives, and B, less competition. So here our first argument comes in about reduced market efficiency and why actually consumers will be worse off on their side of the house. Firstly, let's talk about problematic incentives. So the free market encourages the production of goods where it is most efficient and has the lowest costs. Those who need a good can purchase it at an optimal price that balances the interest of producers and consumers so as to make production sustainable and reliable. And subsidizing production leads to a shift from the optimum allocation of resources and hence inherently reduces efficiency. Political distribution of resources enables corruption, because notice that if something is given by the government, then probably and this is money, often governments use subsidies as effective bribes to buy support that helps them remain in power. Encouraging states to subsidize will inevitably enable more of this kind of behavior, especially given that all state actors have some level of incentive to remain in power. But secondly, on their side of the house, there's going to be less competition, which has a lot of harms. Subsidies provide an artificial cushion for certain firms to remain in power, and it is nearly impossible for non-subsidized firms to compete on such a price with these companies that are subsidized. Notice that they're only talking about 60% of market coverage, so the government is going to have to discriminate against some types of firms. On what basis? They didn't explain. But secondly, it's impossible for price competition increases barriers of entry for new and innovative firms, right? So here, how is a new firm supposed to compete with a company that has support from the government and that is already established? The pressure to compete and work hard to sustain profits is weakened because the government will take care of the costs no matter what. So why is this important? Because decreased competition leads to A, less innovation, which notice is incredibly problematic because we're talking about essential necessities, right? Such as medicine. They're going to have less innovation on their side of the house for things like life-saving drugs. Secondly, they create oligopolies that cannot be disrupted by new firms because they cannot enter the market. And these oligopolies can then hold consumers hostage to their current products because, as we explained, the government simply gives you money that new companies cannot compete with due to the high barriers of entry onto the market. And lastly, there's an increased focus on maximizing profits and decreased focus on providing values. We'll develop our arguments in further speeches.
Thank you very much. We are now concluding the opening statements and are proceeding to the first rebuttal. Debating of University of Antioquia. You have 2 minutes for your first rebuttal.
Okay, before I begin, may I confirm that I'm audible and visible?
You are.
Okay. Now, in the first place, I must thank the opposing team for the arguments presented. However, we must respectfully disagree. Our colleagues from Tilburg University argue that subsidies reduce market competitiveness and efficiency, arguing that corruption is also promoted. However, they came to the wrong conclusion, taking into account that the existing legal framework, even as it stands, fails to stop these market failures, and it's still less to stop the corrupt actions of governments. And talking about innovation and technologies can also be promoted from a state financing and subsidies of national industries. And now, I can proceed with our third argument based on the experience we are all living as humanity, the need for subsidies in times of crisis, such as wars and the current post-pandemic for the social, financial, market, and health effects that COVID-19 left behind. During the pandemic, many countries implemented state subsidies to support national production and address the economic and public health challenges. One notable case is Germany's Emergency Economic and Investment Program, in which they simulated national production and ensured the availability of essential goods and items. Therefore, it is important to note that subsidy up to 60% of essential items or goods in a national economy is based on the premise of subsidizing consumption as a way to supply basic needs of individuals as a guarantee of human rights, and not subsidizing raw materials for later export at lower prices, which will distort market forces by being contrary to the WTO law. Finally, respected judges and colleagues from Tilburg, I would like to emphasize that encouraging states to actively subsidize national production of essential items can have several benefits, including promoting self-sufficiency, enhancing national security, supporting economic development, addressing market failures, and fostering innovation, even more in these post-pandemic times. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are now proceeding with the opposing statements. So, debate team of Tilburg University, you have 2 minutes for your first rebuttal.
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes.
Dear panel, quick rebuttal. We don't disagree with the legal obligations to protect human rights with the opposing team, but we do disagree on what's the most efficient way to achieve these obligations, right? They haven't so far told us, first, why subsidies actually help. They told us that they do, but that is an assertion and it's not really mechanized. Second, they never explained us, which is their burden in this debate, why subsidize up to 60% of market coverage and not 100% if presumably subsidies are so good, right? This is their burden in this debate, and just because we don't advocate for 100% market coverage doesn't mean that they win this debate if they don't prove that, and so far they haven't. And final thing, they told us that their arguments presume that subsidies will go to local firms and give them unfair advantages which are prohibited by WTO regulations, which we're going to get into in a bit, right? But for them to have an impact in this debate with their arguments, that is a presumption that needs to happen. If this is not the case, then subsidies don't really develop these local industries that bring all these super beneficial effects that the government is talking about. Now, continuing with our case, we believe that the 60% market coverage cap just guarantees an unfair market. 40% of the industry will be left out and unable to compete with the government money that is supplied to the other 60%, right? And we believe that since we have explained to you how the distribution, the selection of which firms get subsidies and which don't is largely political and not based on what maximizes welfare, we believe that this is inherently problematic. But at the end of the day, our markets about market efficiency are important because efficiency means having more goods in total, which is what ensures that we don't have these shortages that we want to avoid, right? Thank you.
Thank you very much. For the second rebuttal, the debate team of University of Antioquia, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. May I begin? I am audible. Is it okay?
You are.
Thank you. Firstly, I would like to thank the opposing team for presenting their arguments. The argument presented by the counterpart about reduced market efficiency and less innovation. So what you are presenting is no subsidies. And yes, we are in fact presenting to you why states and markets need in fact these subsidies. In that order of ideas, states shouldn't subsidize national production, even, for example, during crisis time. Now, we have referred to hard law instruments on human rights, but there is another legal framework from the WTO that you already mentioned that supports our argument. For example, both the agreement on subsidies and countervailing measures and the agreement on agriculture set a special and differential treatment for least developed and developing country members, recognizing the importance that subsidies may have in economic developing programs. These provisions materialize the right to development and the special needs that least developed countries and smaller economies are facing. we would like to re-emphasize above all, the defense of this proposition is also based on the promotion of self-sufficiency of states. And we, of course, take into consideration our place of enunciation from Latin America, a region conformed by developing economies that, despite the wealth of raw materials, depends on imports of corns and wheat that exceed more than 70% of natural consumption. As reported in national statistics and data, worsening the situation over the last 18 months, with prices have been rising nearly 110%, while corn and vegetables oil prices are up 140%. So subsidizing national production can reduce a country's vulnerability to external factors, such as rise in prices due to international conflicts, like the Russia and Ukraine war, or money fluctuations, as it is happening right now with 13% inflation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For debate team of Tilburg University, you have 2 minutes for your second rebuttal.
Am I audible?
You are.
And just to confirm, 2 minutes, yes?
Yes.
Okay, let me just. Yep. Okay. Dear panel, let's start with a quick rebuttal. So firstly, they talk about times of crises. Notice that countries will not want to share their resources with other countries if these are subsidized by taxpayer money, right? So in times of crisis, everyone is on their own, which is incredibly inefficient allocation of resources. Secondly, they never talk to you about why precisely they want 60% of market coverage. They never address this part of the motion that we're debating. We tell you about the danger of oligopolies when the majority of the market is funded by the government. But secondly, we talk to you about the lack of innovation created by this policy. And again, we might recognize that, for example, 5% or 10% would be okay, but their side talks about the majority and never explains why. Lastly, we talk about poor states being disadvantaged. We ask, how will these poor states be able to fund these subsidies if they simply have less money? And I'm going to explain that further in a second. So subsidies harm international trade. Note that they're mostly given on a national basis to local firms because states have legal authority to grant subsidies within their own country because voters will be unwilling to spend taxpayer money on foreign corporations. But local have increased. So generally, we think that this is inconsistent with WTO rules and against principles of free trade, because subsidizing 60% of market coverage by the government would have huge consequences on foreign producers. It would put them at a disadvantage, and legally this goes against principles established, for example, in the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, Article 4, or Articles 1, 2, 3, 6, and 32 against this in the SCM. Furthermore, in the case Airbus v. Boeing, in the WTO appellate body, it was established that subsidies to increase export competitiveness are wrong because they create an unfair advantage to some firms.
Thank you very much. This concludes the rebuttals. Entering the conclusions, debate team of University of Antioquia, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, before I begin, may I confirm that I'm audible and visible?
You are.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much to our colleagues in Tilburg. It has been a pleasure having this debate with you, and we humbly ask the judges to consider the arguments presented during this debate. First, as my teammate Christian mentioned, there is a broad legal framework from human rights perspective, but also from an international trade law perspective, which allows for a special and differential treatment for developing countries when it comes to subsidizing domestic production, as it can be a way to guarantee human and fundamental rights. Second, the history of state subsidies for goods and services date back centuries, and it has been a crucial policy tool for governments to promote economic and social development, and is a key tool to deal with scenarios of social and economic crisis, such as the one caused by COVID-19 at a global level. Related to the rights that can be protected by subsidizing up to 60% of national production of essential goods, that will not necessarily displace the remaining 40% of the market, as you indicate, because in consumer economies, the individual has the discretion to choose goods and services. We insist that this will result in a mechanism for guaranteeing rights such as development held in broad sense that includes in itself the right to food and housing. Third, as my teammate Christian shared with us, subsidies to essential goods make a country less vulnerable to external shocks, such as those caused by conflicts, monetary crisis, high inflation, and answering to your motion, oligopolies exist in free market economies, regardless of whether subsidies exist or not. And finally, allowing least developed states and developing states to subsidize their national production of essential goods, it's not contrary to the WTO legal framework. On the contrary, it is a lawful policy tool under different WTO special and differential treatment provisions and necessary to achieve the right to development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Debate team of Tilburg University, you have 2 minutes for your conclusion.
Yeah. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Dear panel, at the end of the day, what we're all trying to do here is increase access to essential items for individuals, basically, right? We tell you that efficiency matters, right? Subsidies ensure that if the total amount of goods is a pie, subsidies make sure that that pie is smaller because of inefficiency and lack of competition, right? And they also give more of the pie to those who need it the least, right? To go back to the point of encouraging states to give subsidies, we tell you that poor states, like less economically developed countries, cannot give subsidies to the level that more economically advanced countries can, right? So at the end of the day, when they tell you that this is somehow gonna, when the opposition government tells you that somehow this measure is gonna benefit these countries that have trouble with citizens that have trouble feeding themselves, that is kind of unrealistic, right? Because encouraging South Sudan to establish subsidies is probably not very important because South Sudan does not have enough budget for these subsidies, right? They support this paradox of wealthier countries can subsidize most, but at the same time need the subsidies the least because their citizens are richer, right? So we tell you that might as well not create these inefficiencies in the market that disproportionately affect citizens from less economically developed countries, and at the end of the day minimize by increasing access to essential items through leaving the market to do its thing and to do its thing. Morally, we minimize human suffering, and legally, we fulfill the human rights obligations towards all people that all states have, right? And not only toward this duty of a state towards its own citizens. Subsidies make it harder for states to fulfill this duty. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you and well done to both teams. This now marks the end of your graded part of the match. Well done. You can now relax. I'll provide a little bit of filler for you to take a breath, take a sip of water. As per usual, we'll do a short feedback round with your teams. Then, of course, the two judges will have 48 hours or 2 business days to review the recording, and as soon as we confirm the scores provided by them, you will be informed. And the winning team will then continue into semifinals. Semifinals are still held in the virtual format. It is only the final match and the match for the 3rd place that will be taking place in hybrid from The Hague. So those who are able to travel or are interested in traveling, then they can connect in person from the Hague University, who will be hosting our final round. And if not, we also have the experience with the teams connecting virtually or halfway. Half part of the team is in person, part of the team is virtual. But that's jumping again a bit early. So now is the time for you. How did you find the match? Did you already perhaps encounter the topic in your studies? Starting with the base team of University of Antioquia, Mr. Zapata.
So, okay. No, I mean, talking about the topic, I didn't. I actually didn't really know much about it, and it's been a challenge, of course. And the debate, I think it was really, really, how could I say it? Not easy. I mean, it was really balanced. I would say, and no, I mean, I just want to thank, of course, the organizing team, and of course our colleagues at Tilburg. I feel really honored to get to this point of the competition and to also be able to debate to a really clever and strong team as the Tilburg University. So yeah, thank you.
Nice. Thank you very much. From Tilburg University, Ms. Zamborska, how did you find the match? Do you already perhaps know this topic before from your studies?
So from my studies, not that much, but I think it's definitely very frequently discussed in politics, this topic. So of course, I somewhat heard about it before, but certainly not to this level that I had to familiarize myself with before the debate. But ultimately, I think it was a very, I agree with our opposition team that it was indeed a challenging match, but I think we both really enjoyed ourselves.
Thank you very much. Ms. Acosta, how did you find the debate? Did you perhaps hear arguments that your team was preparing for the other side? What do you think of the match?
Oh my God, I don't know, it wasn't easy. I was really nervous. This subject was new for me. Um, we did look for cases, rules, and we also navigate in the WTO webpage that was absolutely new for us. We also had the chance to remember those human rights standards and rules. So, well, it was an academic exercise that was really nutritious, and well, I felt that this was an challenging experience.
Thank you very much. Mr. Contos, what about you? How did you find the match? And did you perhaps hear familiar arguments from the other side?
We definitely heard familiar arguments. We we thought that for the most part the topic was fairly straightforward and it was very nice. Personally, my favorite one so far. But we were a bit stuck on the 60% market coverage that took a while to figure out. So it was many nights of I thought I knew what I'm doing. Like what is this? But definitely we had very similar case prepared for the government side, but with some notable differences. So I have to say I'm definitely impressed by the government's case. Can't say I fully agree with it, of course, but I guess I'm a bit biased here. But yeah, very happy with this round.
All right, thank you very much. And before passing the floor to my colleague, who will be traditionally concluding our debates with seeing what are the connections possibly between the universities and the students, allow me one more question. And since we are in quarterfinals, asking to the two teams at the same time, perhaps, feel free to take the floor. How did you find the experience in 23 edition? Did you have a chance to learn new topics, or are you keeping touch already with some of the students that you met?
So definitely for us, it was a very nice experience so far. And like we have reiterated after every debate, I think it was a challenging experience in a very fun way. And like we said, we were also incredibly happy to have come this far. And I think it's yeah, not only academically challenging, but also, like you said, it gave us the opportunity to meet some people from lots of other countries, and also to talk to professors about this. So certainly it was a very good experience for us, I think.
On the side of Colombia team? Perhaps?
Well, I can answer. This was a new experience. I have never ever debate except for this tournament organized by you. So this was a new experience in my life. daily I don't speak English, so this was also a huge challenge in order to keep on remembering my English skills, which is not easy. And I was trying to say to you that thanks to this debate, I made a new friend, and I keep in contact and chatting with a guy from the University of Porto. So it has been amazing to have a new friend there in Europe, to keep in contact, to exchange photos of our cities. It has been awesome.
All right. It's wonderful. It's already good to see you staying in touch, and of course, everyone's very much welcome in The Hague. And a wonderful bridge to give the floor to my colleague to see what possible connections you already might have between the universities.
So yes, so now it is the moment of the last part of this session. It means a bit of networking and connections, possibly between the universities and between the students themselves. And as well, this time I will add a little question more, of course, to what we do usually. Miss Acosta, Gomez Acosta, for example, do you have any friends or do you have any contacts already with people in the Netherlands before? And as well, if you would have, let's say, for example, the two students coming to the Netherlands, what should they see in Medellin?
Okay, well, this is my first Doge with students from the Netherlands, and if you ever come into Colombia and specifically here to Medellin, well, we have a lot to do. This is a really tourist city. We have like a really huge story, not only in those topics related to our sad but real conflict, armed conflict, that have like beautiful spaces related to museums, to social and communitary experiences of people that have been victimized, but they also have like the force to show how they came across these kind of situations. We also have many natural parks and places to keep and do some activities related to the nature. So yeah, we are a really beautiful country. I am convinced that Colombia is beautiful. So if you ever come to Colombia or Medellin, well, we'll have to speak and do a lot of things.
Thank you very much. Mr. Contos, do you have any friends from Colombia, or have you been maybe? As well, what if the team for Colombia is coming to Tilburg, do you think they should see in Tilburg, but you can as well Greece if you want?
Mr. Lorange, this is my best pronunciation of it, by the way. As you will predict by now, of course I have a friend from Colombia. One of my best friends, actually, from back in Greece, is a Colombian Greek woman, and she always tells me about how awesome Colombian food is and how much better it is than Greek food. And we have these very intense arguments because, of course, as you'll understand, have to defend national pride, right? But to stay on topic, if I was going to recommend something in Tilburg, great city as it is, I would recommend it as an airport to go straight to Greece. Beautiful country, where you like the sea, you like the alcohol, maybe you like the culture and the ancient ruins, right? We, in fear of sounding like an advertisement, of course it has something for everybody. I'll be glad to give a very extensive tour to any of our Colombian friends here. But of course, if you see yourself going to the Netherlands, you should totally visit Tilburg, or specifically Leiden. I would also recommend personally. Very big fan.
Thank you very much. Mr. Zapata, what would you recommend else, and do you have as well friends from the Netherlands eventually?
No, sadly, I have no friends from the Netherlands, but to our two colleagues, you of course are very welcome anytime in Colombia. Now you have two guides here to guide you around the city, and I mean not only Medellin. I think Colombia it's a great touristic place. Cartagena, El Cafetero, Amazonas. There are many, many places. So I personally really would recommend. And for example, here, our city, as Paula already mentioned, the historic places, the cultural places, the food, of course, and something I have to mention is the dancing places. I mean, the salsa, the bachata, that is Latin culture that if you come here, you have to see. And it is funny because, for example, in our faculty this semester, we have a Poland student, and it's really impressive because she's got a great Spanish, and it's so funny because when she went out dancing for the first time, she said like, "No, I have to learn to dance salsa," and now she's taking the salsa classes because, as I tell you, that is our culture. So I would really recommend you that. And as I said, you're very welcome anytime.
Many thanks, muchas gracias. And now the floor to Miss Samborska. So, do you have any friends from Colombia? And as well, what would you recommend? I would say the Colombian students to see in Tilburg and maybe in Poland.
So indeed, I can relate to the story about the Polish girl dancing salsa. I would definitely also want to do that as a Polish girl myself. But I have not been to Colombia personally, but it sounds incredible. I definitely want to go, and I will obviously reach out to you if I'm planning on going. I mean, about Tilburg, currently it's raining like many days in the Netherlands. No, but of course we are here, which is exciting. So still, plenty of reasons to visit. If not Tilburg, then the Netherlands in general. Of course, we're both not from here, and we decided to come here ultimately because of not only the education, but also we think it's the Netherlands in general is very easy to travel around the country, and the distances are quite small. So certainly, if you have the opportunity to visit, also definitely talk to us. As for Poland, fantastic country to visit, very interesting history. So I also recommend that. Yeah.
Many thanks, many thanks. So, again, if you want to keep connected after this match, please let us know and we'll, of course, exchange the contact details of the two teams. And as well, maybe for the universities, maybe to have discussions, to have maybe agreements, exchange, conference, research. So yeah, you can let us know. On our side, as my colleague said, that was the very first quarterfinals match of the competition. So many thanks to both teams for your efforts, for your research and the great performance. The three judges are watching or will be watching during the next hours this match, and within the next 2-3 days you will receive, of course, the forms, and as well we publish the results, and the team winning will enter the final four. So it means the four best teams, it means for the semi-finals, and automatically you have two matches. It means semi-finals or match for the third place, or semi-finals and the final. So of course we're looking forward to know the next stop. But many thanks to everybody for this match. Many thanks as well for all the viewers and watchers in the Netherlands, in Colombia. That was very nice. We saw as well the comments as well on the stream. So many thanks for the support for the teams. And maybe last word for my colleague.
I believe all the important items have already been said. I just want to congratulate the two teams again. Really well done. And looking forward to seeing where the next steps take you.
Many thanks. Thank you. Thank you over there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.